So obviously the goal of the next 7 weeks for us all get more fit, right? With that being said, especially those guys that are in beginner and intermediate divisions, we can continue to work on some of the higher level skills. We'll take Sarah, for example. She's currently trying to get ring muscle up, so we can continue to do that. But because of the division that she's in, that's not going to be in her division, so we can still continue to work on that skill work and work on getting some of those things that might next year make a step up a level, but that's not going to necessarily be a priority as far as your work for this competition, depending on what division you're in. Make sense, right? So what that means for beginners need to move lightweight quickly, lower skill gymnastics, which are burpees, knee raises, rope around and standing, which I literally pulled that right off of the standards list, all right? Intermediate, moderate skill gymnastics plus barbell cycling, that's toe to bar pull-ups, rope climbs, double unders, and handstand push-ups. So if I'm an intermediate athlete, and maybe I have ring muscle-ups, if I'm following the intermediate version of the BSG program, which I'll tell you guys exactly how you're going to see that in a second, I might not have a lot of ring muscle-ups in the near future, and if that's the case, that's not a big deal, because our goal over the next 7 weeks is making Beatdown, not necessarily like finishing the top 10% of the open in 2023. You guys see how we kind of toggle our goals and our training needs to go around our goals? Does that make sense? All right? Which leads us into the ARCS and Elite Division. In order to be the best you can possibly be in an ARCS or Elite Division of a competition of this caliber, you need to have really, really high skill gymnastics under a lot of fatigue. So what we're going to be doing, because the 3 divisions have all different demands, all different standards and weight requirements, the VSG program is still going to be the VSG program. It's still going to be underneath that one tab. But for those of you guys that have access to it, right now it says AM, boom, 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 PM, boom, 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 and then just a single session. It's going to say beginner, do this stuff. Intermediate, do this stuff. RX/Elite, do this stuff. All right, so everyone's going to have access to all the stuff, and everyone's going to still be doing class workouts, but this will be over the next 7 weeks again. If Sarah was somebody that maybe has some ring muscle-ups, but she's doing an intermediate competition coming up that doesn't have ring muscle-ups, her division will probably not be doing ring muscle-ups and workouts. Does that make sense? Right? Goal setting, right? This applies to some of us, this doesn't apply to some of us, but there's 4 levels to a division as far as goal setting goes, right? A lot of people are taking a step into a division that maybe they might not be necessarily comfortable with right now. So when you take a step, whether it's your first competition or it's your first time in a new division, the first time you compete in a new division, your goal, we call it get lost, all right? Your goal is to get lost, all right? Who's competing in a new division that they can be down this year? A division they've never competed in. What do you think division you in? Intermediate? All right, so Kayla's doing an intermediate competition for the first time. So we use Kayla as an example. It's her first time, all right? The goal for Kayla of this competition is to get lost and be present. What that means is 2 things. We're not super concerned with what the leaderboard looks like, all right? And the goal is if we don't know who Kayla is, if you're not going to watch Kayla, you really should never even know that she's in her heat, right? Chances are, especially in the intermediate male and female divisions, there's potentially going to be 7 to 10 heats. Worry about the people that are next to you. Don't worry about the leaderboard. Kayla should do nothing that gets her out in front, right? Can I click on you for a second? We're going to click on Sarah for a second. Last year, Bacon Beatdown, the first 20 seconds of every single workout in the division that Sarah was in, the announcer was like, and Sarah Sullivan is in first place by 17 million reps. How did she do it? And then we ended up losing ground with that. That would be a good example of get lost. We don't want to be out in front because it's our first time in a new division, and we probably shouldn't be there. And if we got there, we probably came out too hot, and we don't belong being there. But we also don't want to be in the back. So if I don't know Kayla, and this is her first time doing a competition like this, and that's her goal, somebody that doesn't know her should never see her. She's always in mid-pack. Not worried about the leaderboard, in mid-pack, not of the leaderboard, but of her heat. The next level, right, so maybe Sarah Sullivan now, so Sarah did an intermediate competition, intermediate individual Bacon Beatdown last year, right? So now with our second exposure to an event like this, our goal might now be to finish in the top half, right? So If I'm somebody who's taking a step into a competition of this caliber, into a division that is fairly new to me, last time I did it, we stayed present and we got lost and we accomplished that mission. This time, now we're allowed to look at the leaderboard, right? Not in a super unhealthy way, but we're gonna try to finish in the top half. And everybody here, as long as you don't do things that you're not supposed to, like pull out way in front of a workout that you should not be out in front of, there's nobody here that's doing a division that they cannot finish top half. Does that make sense? Right? Those of you guys that this is maybe you've already accomplished that, or this is your third year in a division, your goal is top 10, and then the final goal would be standing on a podium or winning. And then when you stand on a podium or you win in a division, you're no longer allowed in that division. So that's our approach, and I'm saying that to everybody also because I know there's a lot of people that are like, well, should I do RX or Elite? Should I do intermediate or RX? That's going to be my suggestion to you. If you're doing intermediate, if you've done intermediate in the past and you have not yet stood on a podium, my suggestion, if you want to buck that and you want to say, I'd rather go RX, cool, we're obviously going to support you. But the across-the-board standard suggestion is going to be, we want to try to, you got to learn how to win, all right? What was the name of, there was this real young Asian girl golfer, Kim, what was the golfer's name? Like 15 years ago. Michelle Lee, right? She went out onto the LPGA, and then I think she was even on the PGA tour, right? And then she just lost relevance because she never learned how to win. She was like 13 years old, and it was super fucking cool because here's Michelle Lee, and she can hang in the PGA, and it was really, really cool. But because she never learned how to finish tournaments and how to win tournaments, she just kind of dissolved into irrelevance because she didn't have that athletic component. So that's why I think that if you are interested in continuing to compete, you got to learn how to win. It's not necessarily, oh, I looked at the standards and I can do all the things. Oh yeah, well, congratulations. That's not what we're talking about. It's nice to be able to learn how to win, and then you bump up, and then you try to learn how to win in a new, more challenging division. Does that make sense? Any questions about that? Does everybody kind of have an idea about where they might fall? Yeah? And you know, you can skip a couple things too, because like if Emily and Hugo end up doing bacon, they'll do Elite. But this will be your first Elite individual competition. Yes or no? Yeah. So for like somebody like them, I don't think they would have that conversation of, oh, I'm gonna get lost. They might be able to skip a couple steps and say, hey, my goal is to finish in the top 10 or the top 5, or maybe the goal is literally to stand on a podium. But it gives you kind of a checklist as to progression within a competition if we can continue to progress on these like chapters of athleticism. Make sense? Any questions about that? Everybody kind of has an idea about what division they should possibly do? All right, so let's talk some specifics over the next couple of weeks and months. Did we put dates in the email, or we're gonna send dates out? All right, so dates are in the email that we sent out. So I'm going to re-remind you guys of the dates now, and then I'm going to give you guys an idea about what we're going to be touching on these dates. So the first weekend that we're going to get together is going to be April 23rd and April 24th. The way we're going to do it is Saturdays are going to be for individuals, Sundays are going to be for teams. That's going to be how we try to push it. Now, Matt works most Saturdays. If Matt absolutely needs to come on a Sunday, obviously Matt can come and do training camp on a Sunday. We will be working on the same thing within that training camp weekend, with the exception of the first weekend, and I'll tell you why. For example, weekend number 1, we're actually going to go down, for those of us that are uncertain about what division we should be in, we're actually going to go down a checklist of standards, see if we have the things, and those of us that know for a fact we're good, we're going to get a couple testers in that we did not get to do prior to the open because we kind of ran out of time, on some movements under no fatigue that will like some program bacon, so that as workouts get released, we can start to have an idea about how we are going to approach them, and we meaning you. All right, so that first weekend, individuals on the 23rd, we're going to do a checklist of standards, plus testers of standards and some common movements that Will likes. For example, Will always has a bunch of fucking rope climbs in the competition, so we're going to do a bunch of fucking rope climb stuff. Then on top of that, even if teams want to come to that day, Jeff Evans, who is like 4 or 5 years ago games athlete, is going to be here, and he's going to do probably like an hour seminar on like CrossFit shit. I don't know exactly what. We kind of told him like whatever you like to talk about the most and whatever your shtick is, talk about it. It's probably going to be like heavy barbell cycling because he's a really strong guy. But teams and individuals should plan on being here for that because he's only going to be here the one day, right?
Yeah, he's gonna do competition tips.
All right, so he'll be here on that Saturday. All right. Sunday, which is going to be teams, is checklist of standards, and we're going to test those, test out the high probability movements, plus Worm 101, and then we're actually going to go through event 1 because we're going to have event 1 on the Thursday of that week. Saturday of this first week, we're not going to go through event 1 because Jeff's going to be here, so we're going to spend time listening to what Jeff has to say. So even for individuals that want to get event 1 tested early, we're going to do that on Sunday the 24th. Make sense? And we're going to set it up. The gym's going to go.
What time on next Saturday?
What are the times?
We're doing 11 to 1 every session, every Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah, so every Saturday, every Sunday is going to be 11 to 1.
Because we got Spartan Race next week for anybody who's doing it.
Yeah, so...
Well, I'll get it in, I'll get over it.
Yeah. So, and for those of you guys that have done these like prep camps with us in the past, you guys know that what we'll do, we section lanes off, we create a competition floor, so it's a lot of fun, but it's also gonna we're gonna really try to simulate what it's gonna look like on competition day, so that when you look at a lane, it's not the first time you're looking at it. Second weekend, April 30th, we're gonna have event 2, so individuals on Saturday are gonna go barbell cycling, tips on how to warm up. So if Kayla can't get a hold of any of the coaches because shit's crazy that competition weekend, we want you guys to be able to have the knowledge you need in order to be able to look at an event, know what the bigger stressors of that event are for you, and know how you should be going through a general movement prep, a mobility prep, and then a specific workout prep prior to your workout. So we're going to kind of give you guys the tools needed to be able to dissect the workout and figure out how to create a warm-up on that. That's going to be April 30th. May 1st, which is the team, is going to be barbell cycling, how to warm up, more worm shit, and then event number 2. So with the exception of every weekend after the first weekend, we're going to be doing events on Saturday and Sunday. But just the first weekend, we're going to be doing that event 1 on Sunday. Does that make sense? The following weekend, May 7th, we're going to be at the beach to like party and have fun. So that's like a family Sunday. So we will not be here. So everyone will be here May 8th. But again, that's all on the email, so you don't have to try to memorize everything that we have. The last weekend is the 14th and 15th?
That's the camp.
Yeah, the last weekend. So the 14th and 15th is going to be the last weekend of everything that we're doing, and that's going to be a training camp. And again, those of you guys that have been here for training camps before, it's usually like a 4 to 5 hour on Saturday, 4 to 5 hour on Sunday. We're going to probably have 4, potentially 5 of the 6 events that we're going to do. So we're going to do a bunch of the actual workouts. We'll organize it kind of like we organized that open prep little 2-hour seminar where we talked a little bit about nutrition, we talked a little bit about warming up, talked a little bit about cooling down. But the goal of that weekend is going to be to literally simulate competition weekend. So again, in 2 weekends when that weekend takes place, you've literally already done the whole fucking thing, and now it's just like play. Like we did all the rehearsal, right? Like Jay, we did all the rehearsal, and then the actual play where we have fun and people come to see us and we like ball out. Now we're just doing what we've already practiced. We're not guessing anything. That makes sense? So just to recap, there's going to be a slight change in programming starting on Monday. So depending on what division that you are going to be competing in at Bacon Beatdown, you'll follow that division's programming, and they'll all be under the same tab in Waterfire. All right? Starting next weekend, Saturdays and Sundays, Saturdays for individuals, Sundays for teams, we'll be going over a specific component of whether it's barbell cycling or gymnastics, getting some testing in on movements that we think that we're going to see, and then once workouts start to come out, we'll start getting touches on workouts. And then May 14th and 15th will be the competition simulation weekend. Did we put a time to that yet or no?
For the whole weekend? I
Yeah.
think we said like 8 to 3 on Saturday.
Okay.
And then a little later on Sunday.
we'll play that by ear as the workouts start coming out. If there are a bunch of shorter workouts, we might be able to keep that shorter. If they're longer workouts, we might be able to keep that longer. Last thing, on Thursdays, starting effective immediately, Thursdays at noon, we're all going to be at Aquacrest to swim. So if anybody wants to start getting their swimming in, I know Thursdays at noon is kind of tough, but we will be there. If you want to do any swimming on your own, other than that, that's going to be on you guys to kind of schedule. That's going to be when we, as a group, go, is Thursdays at noon. And then on the Sunday, you got a question? Yeah, we'll put workouts up. Like we did last year, we'll do the same thing. And then on Sunday of that competition weekend, we will be starting, or the mock weekend, we'll be starting that day at the beach, because we'll have beach workout already released by then. So that is the one day that we'll be going on a Sunday together. Other than that, if you need to go on weekends, you need to schedule that with yourself. Cool? Any questions, comments, concerns?
Swim, motherfucker.
Yeah, so this is a additional purchase program so nobody shows up surprised. So any one weekend session that's like a prep session is a $20 drop-in per session. The camp by itself, the weekend, is $50 to participate in the training camp weekend. If you want all of it, plus you're going to get extra content that Alex is going to be putting out, it's $125 to purchase a pass for the whole program.
Which is obviously what we suggest.
Oh, and we're making a super cool shirt. Sorry.
Yeah,
Bella's
we're making a camp shirt that's going to be like kind of cool, kind of cheesy, because it's going to be like camp, like, oh, we're going to camp, have s'mores, but it's going to be like that, but it's going to be a cool shirt. But yeah, so $140 is going to be the whole training program, all the events, shirt, training weekend, all the content that we're going to put out from now until Bacon. And you're not going to have to play guesswork. So the goal of this is going to be, there's going to have to almost be no conversation that you need to have in your brain that wasn't already had here about anything. When should I start warming up? We're going to talk about that. When should I go to the warm-up area? We're going to talk about that. How early should I be reporting? We're going to talk about that. So the goal is for you to have everything so that people in your division who might be of the same caliber, athletic or fitness levels as you, but don't have the same tools as you, you are going to have the upper hand on them because you're going to have lined up the way we need to line up. All right? Cool? Any questions? Everybody's good? All right. See you this week.